Start with today's first scientific session by Dr. Ajayan Sadanandan sir on the topic Global Understanding of Flora by Ayurvedic Principles. Now I call upon Dr. Saujanya to introduce our guest to the audience.
Thank you, ma'am. A very warm good morning to all. Myself, Dr. Saujanya S. Prathinidhi from Ayurveda Mahavidyalaya, Hubballi. It's a great pleasure to introduce our today's guest lecturer, Dr. Ajayan Sadanandan sir, to this great session. Sir was one of the most recognized resource person. Sir's graduation in BAMS was from SDM Ayurveda College, Tirupati. Sir did his MD in Dravyaguna from the SDM Udpi and PhD in Dravyaguna from NIT. Sir was a member on setting up of National Network on documentation of local health traditions and ethno-medical practices. Sir was member of CCRAS, Ministry of Ayush for Research and Documentation of Marma Chikitsa, former member Board of Studies, NGO University of Health Sciences, Chennai. Sir contributed many national workshops on conservation, cultivation and phytochemical study of medicinal plants, Aushadam Kerlam, current trends in herbal drug standardization. Sir has presented many papers such as Glimpses of Drugs in Kerala Traditional Practices, National Seminar on Standardization and Scientific Research of New Drugs with reference to the fundamentals of Dravya Guna, resource person in various workshops such as state level seminar on classical and contemporary approach on herbal drugs, Sushrutam. Sir was a part of many CME programs and published many papers and articles in various recognized journals and websites. Presently, Sir is working as professor and HOD in Dravyaguna Vijnana at Ashtanga Ayurveda Vidyapeetham and Chikitsalayam, Vavnur, Palaghat, Kerala. Once again, we welcome you, sir. Thank you, sir.
So now you can start the session.
Okay. Can I share the screen now?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. The slides are visualizing, madam?
No, sir.
Now it's going, sir?
No, sir. No, sir.
Now, okay.
Yes, sir.
Yes, okay. Thank you, sir. Can we start, sir?
Yes, sir. You can start now.
Okay. First of all, I'd like to put my sincere thanks to Ayurveda Mahavidyalaya and Hospital Hubli for conducting such a great seminar, a webinar regarding Dravya Amrita. So I'm very thankful to Principal Dr. Prashant sir, Dr. Prasanna Savanur sir, Dr. Radhakrishna Ramarao sir, Manjunath Naik sir, Dr. Supriya madam, Dr. Reddy Verma, Dr. Akshay Kumar, Dr. Renuka madam, and Dr. Saujanya for giving me an opportunity to share some of the information regarding the understanding of the flora through the Ayurvedic principles. So, I'm welcoming all those great people who are hearing this also. So, with all your permission, we can go through the global understanding of the flora through our Ayurvedic principles. Why this is relevant means we all know that Ayurveda is developing in such a way in the global industry. And every part of the globe Ayurveda has its own importance. So the peoples are looking upon different types of medicines for various types of health issues. Especially in the global now pandemic scenario, the awareness regarding the plants and its utilizations become very much rich. And the scope in the future coming years is very high. So from where we have to get these resources? The resources has to come from the nature. And India is such a populated country, and in the future it is not able to supply the raw drugs which is needed for whole the globe. And if some doctors also, they can go to another continent for practicing Ayurveda. And it is not possible that all the plants has to be used from using in India, has to be used in there also. The availability may be very less. So there we have to adopt some other techniques that is mentioned by our Acharyas to know about the plant species wherever it is available, how we can look into an Ayurvedic perspectives and how we can utilize it for the medicinal purposes. So regarding that, today we are going to see some of the informations. So with all your permissions, I'm going to start this small section. Satgurve Namaha. If you see the knowledge is always came from the nature. The first seeds of the knowledges are got to the human beings from the nature itself. Because human beings is an inevitable part of the globe life system. Millions of life that is existing in the earth is depend upon the coexistence of each and every life creatures. So on that, a minute creature to a gross creature, human beings become one of the part. So if you see this photo, you can see that a flower is opening and a small bee is coming. So when an egg is hatching out and a bee is coming out, and no one is teaching that bee to go to this particular flower and collect this particular honey. It is a natural process, a natural instinct to observe the nature, to utilize the nature, and to enjoy the nature. That is the instinct that is existing in every life forms. Human beings have an extra capacity to utilize these types of things in various ways. That helps them to sustain in various topographic conditions, even in the Antarctica, or in a dry desert land, or in a deep forest, because of their insight to the nature to interpret and utilize in a very nice way. Ayurveda is also such a science which utilizing this capacity of human beings of observation, interpretations, and utilization. But as a science, we are systematically analyzing these observations, interpretations, and utilizing it in various levels. The whole Ayurvedic science is especially discussing regarding this concept. How a life is interacting with the surrounding, with their environment, with their light, with their air, with the humidity, and the land where it is present. Like that, everything is there, is depending upon an interaction of the two environments, external and internal environment. So it is very essential that we have to know about the external environments, and then only we can able to know our internal environment. So we can see that among the knowledges, which is the best knowledge, Charakacharya is telling that among the knowledges regarding the plants is the important knowledge. With respect to Ayurveda, if you know about the use of a plant, then only it can be applied to a particular condition. So that jnanam that special knowledge of Vijnanam, a comprehensive knowledge regarding the utilization of a plant, helps to one to attain the siddhi. So if someone is knowing about that Gudiji, Amrita has to be utilized for this purpose, the knowing of that thing is the most important part. So the plants and knowledge as having a valuable knowledge among all the knowledges that is existing, that we can see from even from the Vedas periods. So here also in the globe, there are so much of things are there. So many plants or species are there. And if you are searching, we can find out new species or new uses. So we can see the current scenario. If you look into the world vascular plants, there will be 391,000 are there. On that, 31,000 plants only we have documented for some single uses. So since this much progress then also we are not able to know about the most of the plants. 95% of the plants are still unknown. If you look in the Indian scenario, we have 18,000 flowering plants. That means 6 to 7% of world flora is existing in India. And then also India, we have 18,000 flowering plants. On that, we are only using 8,000 species in traditional medicines. And Ayurveda, we are using only 600 species for different purposes. So restricting the usage of commonly available plants on the regional areas will result in a crisis. Because the population is increasing, the demand is increasing, but the flora is depleting. So it is necessary that according to the time, we have to find out new drugs, new plants that can be replaced by some other plants for the purposes what we are using nowadays. So if we see the history of Ayurveda also, we can see that such a changing and updating of the pharmacopoeia is going on. What the plants that mentioned in the Vedas is not prevalently that much utilizing in this period. We are utilizing so many other plants. So such a type of variation is there. And we can see that there is a wide scope that is existing outside the Indian subcontinent or Asian subcontinent regarding the plants and its uses. One example is Virginia lingulata, the Pashanapeda. The Pashanapeda is a plant that is occurring in the Himalayan Kashmir area. But the same Virginia species that is occurring in the European countries, there also the peoples are using. So those peoples who are residing in that area can depend upon this plant for that purposes. Like that, we can see such type of similarities of flora in around the globe. So an Ayurvedic person can utilize this in a well form. Why means, if you look into this data, you can see that in modern pharmacology, only 20% of the plant species are chemically evaluated. On that 21,200 alkaloids are isolated. On that 21,200, only 70% are subjected to single bioassays. That means we are very much little knowledge regarding the plant chemicals and its bioactivities. And if you want to isolate one chemical, and then we have to do a pharmacological study and assays, and it has to come as a medicine, it will take a long period to 5 to 10 years. And millions of dollars is necessary for that purpose. And sometimes after that also that drug can't be used in the health system. Here comes the importance of Ayurveda. How our acharyas are assessed with these plants and how they are utilized these in the chemical or in the other levels to the persons with the various types of ailments. So we can see what are the techniques they are utilized. So we all know that they are analyzed the whole matter that is existing in the universe in the form of Dravya, Guna and Karma. So Ayurveda is a science which is discussing about the physical things and all the innate and non-innate activities that is taking place in the universe in the name of matter, properties and actions. And how we are studying these matter properties and actions means through the pramanas. We have an Aptodesha Pramana that documented systematic knowledges are there. With the base of that systematic knowledge, we are using Pratyaksham, observational techniques, Anumana, inference techniques, Yukti, the utilization of our wisdom in the ultimate level, that will gain a very important true knowledge. And that true knowledge can be utilized for the benefits of human beings. So for that purpose, we have to know about what are the 5 basic matters and its features, because what we are future going to discuss is regarding these matters and its interactions. So you know that all these things, how it will be there and other things, but just I am refreshing through this. So if you see the first matter, Prithvi, is the base of the matter. It's having a Guru, Sthulam and Sthiram. Heavy, bulk and stable, and it is Gandhavat. It is having a smell. And Acharya is telling that such matter is predominant. If Prithvi matter, a physical entity which is having a Prithvi Tattva is more, then it is Kala Varnam, black and black combinations. So if you are seeing a substance which is having a black and black combinations, which is heavy, bulk and stable with a specific smell, surely we can infer that that is having a predominant of Prithvi Mahabhuta, a matter which is having a Prithvi Tattva. And that such a thing has having a Madhura Rasa, sweet and Kashayam, astringent in nature. And if you look into the Jala Mahabhuta, the second thing, it is Dravam, liquidity, Shidam, Guru, Snigdham, Manda Sandram. And such a type of matter has having a predominance of Neela Varnam and its combinations. So a Aptatva is predominant in a particular part, then it will having a bluish in color and it will yield a very good, nice taste. So we can take an easy example for that is sugarcane. If you look in the stem of the sugarcane, you can see that a bluish like combination. And inside also there will be liquidity, cold, heavy, unjust, dull, dense and all these things. And it is Madhura in Rasa. So like that, in the permutation of in combinations of the Mahabhuta, if Jala is predominant in a matter, then we can say that that is predominantly with these character features. And after Prithvi and Jala, you can see the Agni, the most powerful thing, which is Ruksham, Tikshnam, Ushnam, Vishadam, Sushmam. Hot in nature, non-slimy in nature, and minute in nature. It can penetrate into any level. So after Prithvi and Tattva, a completely opposite gunas are coming into existence to separate and multiply into another level. So this matter has having a various types of shapes. In a matter, in a substance where there will be a Tejo Mahabhuta is most predominant, then it will show a variant in its rupa shape. And its color is red and red combinations. So we can see that some of the toxic plants, if you look, it is having a hot in nature, non-slimy in nature, and Sushma in nature, and it is having a peculiar type of colors and markings, and it is having a red combinations. This instinct of knowledge of human beings help them to sustain in the deep forests. If they are come across with such a plant which is having a red and red combinations with multiple colors and agrities, then with the hot taste, hot in potency and other things, they will not use it. That made the human beings to come to this level. Otherwise, in the forest itself, they will end its their species diversity. So such a matter has having a Katu Amla Lavana predominance. And the fourth one is the Vayu. If Vayu Mahabhuta is predominant, then Ruksha Vishadam Lakhu. So here you can see that the matter's weight and mass, all these things are reducing. So here Ruksha Vishadam, dry, non-slimy lightness, and such a matter is having the predominance of yellowishness. If a matter has having a yellow color combination, we can infer that Vayu Mahabhuta is superseding there. And it is having a Sparsha Bahulam. If you touch that thing, it will be very sensible to our touch organs. And it is Kashaya Rasam and bitter in taste. Astringent and bitter. Akasham. Here you can see that only one change is there. So here the Ruksha is replaced with the Sukshmam. Again the minuteness comes. a physical entity which is having very minute in nature, non-slimy in nature, and light in nature, it will produce a hollowness and a sound. So when you hit a substances, it will producing a very good sound. Then you can say that it is having a predominance of Akasha. And the Varna is Avadhadam. It is transparent or white-like combinations. So that is the Akasha, the most lightest physical entity that existing in the universe. So in all the matters, there will be such type of 5 combination. Tattu Kshama Adhisthana Jayade. On that, the Shama, the Prithvi will become the Adhishthanam. Ambu Yonya. So Ambu will help to growth and multiply. Agni Pavana Ambasam Samavayadaha. The Agni, Pavana, Vayu and Akasha will help to make it into the various forms. And it's the Nivritti Visheshascha. There will be a multi-genesis of the things will be taking place with various types of permutation and combinations. But one Mahabhuta may be predominant on that. That is called as Vipadeshastu Huyasa. Maybe Pratyapi is predominant. Maybe the combination of Vayu Agni is predominant. Maybe the combinations of Vayu Akasha are going to be predominant. According to that, if Prithvi and Api is predominant, the Guru Gunatum and Snigdatum and Adapadatum, all these things will come and it will move downwards. If it is a Laku and that, then Urdhagami property will be there. If there will be a combinations of Agni along with the Jalam and all these things, then it will be called the Upedo Padam because of the predominance of Agni and Vayus. Like this, the plants has having a physical entity, a matter that is existing in the form of various physical forms, and then it will come into contact with the human body also. It will show the same type of matter differences in our body also. So this is the basics of that things. So we can see one example. If you observe this video, you can see that this plant is having a cordate leaf, a small cordate leaf. And if you observe the land, you can see that this is a blackish land. So Prithvi Mahabhuta is predominant and a cordate leaf similar to Manduga Varni, Central Asiatica. So the local peoples know about this plant and they observed this plant and they found that its base of the underlying part of the leaf is whitish in color and the flower is also whitish in color. You can see that the white color flower. The flower is also whitish in color and the fruit is red in color. So with these specialities, they used this as similar to that of Manduga Varni. And this is the Neela Manduga Varni, one of the rare variety, and they are using for various types of ailments and to increase their intellectual capacities also. So from where they are got the knowledge, they have no labs or no test tubes or something like that, because they have a very keen observation capacity and interpretation capacity from their traditional knowledges of applications. So Ayurveda is updating these traditional knowledge of applications that is existing in the peoples, those who are residing close to this nature. And afterwards, Ayurveda include these drugs in our pharmacopoeia in a beautiful level by various yogas and other things, so that no side effect can't be occur by taking this plant. And ultimate result we can elicit by using these types of plants. This is the concept. So this is a plant. You can see that the land itself will become blackish in color and very wet in land, and a plant which is having growing on the underground areas of the shades as having these leaves. So it is from an Anupadesham, a plant with these types of water aerial area we can observe this. And if you see another plant, a plant which is growing on a rocky area where there will be 1 or 2 centimeter breadth of sand only is there. So the resources for natural existence is very less because the soil is very less. Under that there will be a hard stone. So they can't get the essential nutrients from the soil. So what they done? They changed it into another way of adaptations. So what we are seeing now is a insectivorous plant called as Drosera. So what the plant will do means they will secrete certain specific viscous exudates that will be present on the hairs like these tendrils. So on the hairs like these tendrils, and when the insect is coming, it will digest that insect and suck all the nutrients, and then they will exist. So here the peoples are observed this. So it is having a capacity to digest the things. So they inferred that. So if we are using this for some blockages, sanghas or any granthis or arbudas, then it will be helpful for removing or shrinking of that unwanted dosha problems or dhatu problems. And they used for such type of sanghas and granthis. So if you see the modern pharmacological studies regarding this plant, they found that this plant has containing plumbagin alkaloids that is present in the Chitragam also. So the same type of alkaloids has able to remove the masses that is occurring on our dhadus. Like that, the plant where it is growing and its nature decides its actions for various types of problems. So Acharyas are known about these facts, and they systematically documented and mentioned how we have to analyze these things. So the chemicals that's existing in the plant is depend primarily on the land where it is occurred. The second thing is what the plant needed for their existence. Accordingly, they will produce the other secondary metabolites. So for analyzing these things, our Acharyas are first observed the Bhumi, geography, then observed the flora by applying the Panchapautika Tattvas. So if you see, we have to go to the first Bhumi Parisha is the geographical understanding, because according to the predominance of Mahabhuta in the land, that will deplete surely on the plant, because it is an Antaschedana Dravya which is standing on a particular area. So it has completely depend upon the matters that is available on that local area. That influence surely will be there on the plant. So for that purpose, we have to apply the Panchapautika theory, what we are discussed when we are starting that has to be applied here. So Sushruta Acharya is telling that Parthiva Bhumi, a land which is having a very heavy rocks, grayish black in color of the soil and very heavy trees, then that land is having the predominance of Prati Mahabhuta. So we can see that moist evergreen forest around the globe has having these types of predominance of Prati Tattva, where there will be a heavy rocks will be there, where there will be color will be has having a blackish and black combinations, and surely the plants that is growing in that particular area has having the predominance of Prati Mahabhuta. In Apya Bhumi means, if you see the sand, it will be very snigdha in nature and plenty of water is there, Ambuguna Bhuishtam. And the color of the soil is Shukla Varnam, whitish in color. And it's Komala Trina Vriksham, very delicate plants are there. You can see there will be herbs will be there, climbers will be there, the small shrubs will be there, plenty of flora is there. But the stems are very delicate and you can squeeze out the juices very easily in such type of a land means that is Apya Pradhana. So you can see that moist wet evergreen forests, riparian forests, the forests near the rivers, on the banks of the rivers, the seashore near to the ecosystems, all has having these types of features, the predominance of Apya. And third is the Agneyam, where there will be Agni is the most predominant of that particular area means the stones itself is very light in nature. If you put two stones and hit together, it will powder. In a Jangala Bhumi, you can observe these things. And if you take some sand, you can see that Nana Varna Bhumi, it will be multicolored. And the flora is less, Alpa Vriksham and Praroham. So the desert and dry scrub jungle areas are having these types of features. Another is the Vayavya. Is this area, the stones are rough in nature and ash color, just like Pasmavarnam, and very small trees or shrubs, and most of them are xerophytes. So cactus-like plants with more thorns is the most cardinal feature of Vayavya Bhumi. So in India, you can see that thorn scrub forests, tropical dry deciduous forests are coming under the predominance of Vayavya. Another important is the Agashya Bhumi, the high altitude land, the most divine land. So here the Akasha Mahabhuta is the most predominant, but it can't existence in that level. Why means because as the Akasha is a very light thing, it is always going upwards. So it has to retain some Mritti Samam. The sands will be there. Then it will be grayish black in color and having a very height mountains, Mahaparvadam. And the Jala that is existing on that particular area is Avyakta Rasa Jalam. And you can see that Asara Vriksha Prayaha, the hardwood of the trees are very short slanted, not that much big or huge. So such a type of a green land which is having these types of features, there will be a predominance of Akasha Mahabhuta. So we know that Akasha Mahabhuta is a Urdhagami properties because of its lightness. So what the plant will do? Plant will store these Akasha Mahabhuta predominance under the ground in the form of tubers and in the form of small rhizomes and other things. So plants that will be occurring on such type of bhumis are very nutritive in nature and having a rasayana guna. That's why our Ashtavargam, Meda, Mahameda, Kagoli, Shirakavali, Jiyoga, Rishabhaga, all these are coming from these types of Agashya predominant plants. And it will help for a very good rasayana. So we can correlate this to Shola grasslands and other grasslands. And some of the land is mixed with all these things, all these Mahabhutas. Such lands are having a very diverse flora, and you can see the balancing of Mahabhuta on that particular area. That is the Sadharana Desham. So a Jangala Desham, an Anupa Desham, and a Sadharana Desham is coming due to the predominance of these Mahabhuta things on the Bhumi. That's the Charagajari aspect. So like that will influence the plants also. Now, after analyzing the land, we know that this is the Mahabhuta is predominant. And then we have to follow the flora, each and every flora, because each and every life is having its own diversity and importance. So they have adopted these Mahabhutas into various levels and it will be growing in that levels. So Ajay is telling why a seed is germinating in 24 hours, why some seeds are germinate after 3 months. Some seeds are germinate after 6 to 12 years. Why such type of things are happening? That deciding by the plant's capacity of converting the Mahabhutas into various levels. And why some of the plant has having a strong stem? Why some has a dwarfism? Why a weak stem is occurring? Why a branch is occurring? All these is depending upon the activity of these Mahabhutas. So how a seed is germinating? Tejo Andaram Karodi. How a seed is germinating means first Tejas, the hot heat of that particular Mahabhuta is entering or producing a space on the seed. Then Bijo Atti Samsrishtham Prathi Abhinirharadi. So inside that a Prathi Samsrishta is there in the form of a cotyledons or something like that. It will be inside. And then Vayu Tasmat So Anguraha, then that will be dragged out by Vayu. So when a Tejas will producing an opening in a seed, and then the Vayu with the help of Prathya Tattvas, it will drag out the growth factor and then the seeds will start to sprout. So if you see a paddy, if you soak the paddy for 24 to 40 hours, 42 hours, it will sprout out. A bean can sprout out within 24 hours, but a lotus seed can't be sprout out within 24 hours or 3 days or 4 days. It has to retain the water for more than 3 to 4 years. So that shows that it is protected in such a way that inside the matter is having that much samsrishta pratyap. So if a seed is having such a covering and the bija is such a way of samsrishtam or pratyap, and that means it is a very nutritive seed. If you see the cashew, if you see the coconut, if you see the palladagam, all these are not sprouting very easily. They have to retain under for a long time for under the ground or in under the humidity for sprout out. So this indicates that if a seed is sprout outing very long time after, then surely we can infer that there will be a very good form of pratyap up is some system inside that. Coconut is an example for such type of things. So like that we can infer regarding the Mahabhutas. And after that, if you are seeing that which factor is deciding the growth of a stem, you can see that some trees are growing straight without any branches. So this is a photo from a deep forest in Karnataka, where it is growing. We took this photo from nearly half a kilometer away. So it's such a height tree, and it is producing the branches at the top itself. Which factor is deciding this? Yavat Rju Parigrahanadi Tejas, Tavat Rju Agrandischa Skanda. So when Tejas is more active, and then it will drag out the Pratyap Tattvas to upwards. So that decided by the Tejas. The Tejas is excellently acting on a particular plant stem, then the branches will not take place. It will grow straight. And when the Tejas will become here, Yatra Avasthita Tejas. So in a particular part, the Tejas will be little bit reduced its activity. Then Upayada Vijit Dadadi, it will produce the branching to the sideways. Anila Pratyambasya Vinargaradi. Then what the thing will take place? The Vayu will drag out the things to the sideways. That's why if you see this photo, you can see that up to this, Tejas is very active. But here, when it is come to this level or this level, the Tejas become little bit active, become less, and then Vayu will supersede. So Vayu will drag out the Pratyap Tattva along with Tejas to all the sides, and then the branch will take place. So if you are seeing such a type of plant, then we can infer that it is having a predominance of Tikta Kashaya Rasam. Because Tikta is having a combination of Vayu and Akasha. And Kashayam is having Prathya and Vayu. So the Vayu superseding all these. So by looking into the nature of a plant itself, we can able to know that this is having these types of features. This is one of the interpretation, not it may be always correct. So we will go for other analyzing of various other experiments also. That is Acharya Sartale. So if sometimes what will happen, Yatravasthita Tejas here, it's very reducing, then Vayu yena na anividhamidi, then Vayu will supersede so much, and Tatra Sushiram Bhavati. So Vayu is superseding in a very great amount, then what will happen means the Akasha will come into play there. Then there will be porosities will come. So how a lotus stem or a leaf or a flower has to come out from the muddy watery area means its capacity of Vayu and the Akasha. So when the Tejas will be less, then what will happen if these other two Mahabhutas will supersede and it will come to upwards. So that along with the Pratyap, the matter will come upwards. You can observe this in the bamboos also. Bamboo is one of the fastest growing plant on the earth. So why it is fastest growing? Because of the hollowness inside. So with that Akasha Mahabhuta predominance along with Vayu, it is dragging out an upper parts and a hollowness will come. Like that, we can infer that this Mahabhuta is predominant on the stem of the plant. And how the spreading of the stem is taking place. From the base itself, if something is spreading into all the direction, we can infer that there also there will be a Vidabam will be Kavans, there will be a Pratyap Tattva will be dragging by the Pitta from the base itself and resulting in the bushy like thing. So here the combination of Pratyap along with the Tejas is very predominant. So the Tiktarasam along with the Kashayam is very predominant in such type of drug, and it is having a very good Ushnavirya. And it will show its action in such a level. So this is a source of Agrimanda, and how Agrimanda can be able to do these karmas because of this property. And you can observe this in thorns and any outgrowths of the plants, you can see this. The other most important thing is the leaf. Virkhavritta Tiriyak Chadurasam. Why a leaf was having various shapes? Because of Parigrahana Vashat Patrana Tejasaha. So Tejas is deciding the shape of a leaf. A leaf with multi-shape, then surely we can infer that the Tejas will be predominant on that. Here you can see that this plant is having serrations and incisions, but this leaf is having not that much. So here we can infer that it is a Ushna leaf and this is a Shida leaf. So this is a Gorandavadi which will produce itching on our body. This is a Jivaga leaf which is very Madhuram, Shidam and Brahmana in nature. So this is a Jivaga. So like that, by observing that, we can infer this. Same time in the compound leaves also. So why a leaf become compound? Because there also Tejas Madhya Upapidide. On the middle part, Tejas will having a stagnation, and then that will lead to various types of dragging to the sideways and resulted in these things. So if you take the example of Moringa olifera, Shikru, or our Shonagam, you can observe that such leaves are having a predominance of these Mahabhudas, Prathi, Mahabhuda, along with Vayu and Tejas. The same time in the Venations. Yatra avasthita Tejas aneka vichir dadadi anila pratyambasya abhinarhardi tatra patra rekha bhavati. Why a leaf petiole entering into the lamina, it is producing various types of venations. Some are reticulated, some are parallel venations, some are palmately reticulated. It's decided by Tejas and Anila Pratis. So you can see this leaf, Vruddhadaru leaf. It is having such a diversity of Teja Mahabhuda and Pratyapata. So that's why these leaves are having more hairs. So the hairy area indicate that it is having more predominance of Teja Mahabhudas. That's why various growth, outgrowth will be taking place. And this has having less Teja Mahabhuda activities. Like that we can infer and take. These same scenarios are taking place in flower also, even in petals, stamens, and all the parts that's decided by these Mahabhudas, each and every variations. So the matters are residing this. And if you see a flower is opening on the night, and some of the flowers are opening on the day, when you touch a plant, it will be closing the leaves, just like Ledjalu. And Viparita Ledjalu, what you are seeing, this decided by Sammilanam Atti. So the closing is taking place due to the water content, Unmilanam Tejas. The opening is due to the Tejas. So if a plant material which is closing and opening by our touch stimulus, then it indicates that it is having a balancing of Tejas and Atti, and it should be a very good drug for preventing the bleedings. So those things we are extensively used as a Rakta Stambanam. If you see the lotus flower also, it is a Rakta Stambanam. A Alambusha, Viparita Ledjalu is also a Rakta Stambanam. A Ledjalu is also a Rakta Stambanam. A Shirisham is also a Rakta Stambanam. All these are having these types of features. So we can take these observations to know about a plant in various levels. So here you are seeing an example of a classical example. What we are prevalently using is the Gugulu. This is the land where it is growing, a Jangala Desham, a land which is having a predominance of Agni and Vayu. So that made that plant to conserve the Pratyap Tattvas into various combinations of Teja Mahabhuda inside that. That's why the Gugulu is having such a combination of Ushnatvam and Snigdhatvam, Pichilatvam. And this will help to break the Srodha Sankam inside our body. Like that, we can see various plants. This is the another plant which is seen in the Anupadesha. So if you observe this plant, you can see that the stem, it's look like a variegations. So Tejo Mahabuddha is very high. And if you look into the leaf structure, it is incised and it's having a peculiar borders. So again indicating that the Tejo Mahabuddha is very high in nature, but it is growing in a Pratya predominant area. And if you look the inflorescence, it is very high in length, nearly 1.5 meter high, and it looked like a hooded snake. So this is the Naguli Kanda. When the mongoose and the snake is fighting together, and the mongoose got the bite, and they will go to this plant and dig out the rhizomes and they will eat it so that the poison will be nullified. So this Naguli Kanda's invention first done by the peoples, those who are dwelling in the forest. They observed that after fighting this, the mongoose is going and taking this. And then they found that this can be used for the snake bites of their problems also. Once they are found that it will be a very irritating thing, then they found that it has to be purified in something. So they used some Amla Drabya to purify it. And when this drug is came to our science, we combined this drug with various other Vishakna Drabyas and made into formulations of tablets and other things. And now we are using this in the various forms. So like that, from the nature, by observing the Mahabuddhas in various levels, we can incorporate new drug to our formulations. So that's why Acharyas are saying that, especially Charakacharyas are saying that, Sarvaloga Atma Anyatmanam Charvaloge, seeing the entire universe in the self, and vice versa give rise to the true knowledge. So Loga Purusha Samanyavada also can be implied. Whatever the things that is existing in the nature and in our body is the matters, physical form or a biological form, in the form of Panjabodhyatam and Jiva. So if we are able to observe the things of these permutations and combinations of innumerable such things in the nature, and at least 1%, if you are able to perceive the knowledge of that, then surely we can incorporate in our body scenario conditions. That's why, dear friends, we have a rich scope to look into the nature and utilize this by our classical methods. And of course, along with these classical methods, we can stress for so many numerous modern pharmacological tests nowadays. Once we came to this level and we know that this knowledge is there, then we can go for that additional support from other systems. But this is a very depthful, thoughtful knowledge that provided by our Acharyas that we have to exploit, and it has to be handed over to the new generations to come. So everything, these things are depending upon the nature. That's why we have to obey the nature, we have to respect the nature, and we have to try to protect and conserve the nature, because each and every life is linked to each other. So if one life is away from the nature, then surely it will lead to the extinction of something on that chain. So it is the duty of an Ayurvedic person to highlight these things to the peoples and the society, that we are the peoples, those who are looking more things on the nature, and every Ayurvedic person has to become a very good naturalist. If a person is becoming a very good naturalist and environmentalist, then surely they can enrich their knowledges, and it will help the society and this blue globe to a diversity of life. So that's why our Acharyas are told that Sughartha Sarva Bhutana, from a minute, a unicellular organisms to a gross multicellular organisms, everything is related to a specific ecosystem. So it's our duty to know about the ecosystems and tell the peoples to regarding these important ecosystems also. And that will help to provide a new knowledge or new inventions of the drugs in the current scenarios. So thanking all of you for this hearing and patience hearing, and observing these things. Hope it may useful for those who have heard these things. Thank you, one and all. Om Guru Namaha. If anything is want to discuss, surely we can discuss.
Thank you, sir. It was an informative session. Now I call upon Dr. Saujanya for the thank you note.
Thank you, sir, for the most wonderful and knowledgeful session. It was literally an immense and knowledgeful session which made our ecosystem to know well. Thank you for informing about the floras to identify based on the Panchamahabhuta concept. Thank you, sir. Thank you once again.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.